before we get into like any questions, I have one question myself. So which
Yes.
is, just for the high school student right now in Australia, what would you recommend them, do over the next few years to ensure that they do very well and also get into academia and be like really set up for that?
Right. So this is a very good question. So in Australia, in Sydney in particular, we have a very, very good undergraduate economics program at the University of Sydney, where I work. And look, I'm not saying that because I work at the University of Sydney. I will explain. So I think the best thing you can do if you want to pursue a career in economics, not only in academia, but in general, is to enroll in the Bachelor of Economics at the University of Sydney. But there is a very important but. You need to complete an honors degree. Our regular undergrad is not very good, right? You are not going to get into academia if you get a regular Bachelor of Economics, but with honors, you can, right? So I explained you the difference between what we have at Sydney Uni and what there are at other universities in Australia, right? What we have at Sydney Uni is what we call a pre-honors program. It means that after the first year, students are streamed into advanced units in the second year and in the third year, right? If students succeed in those units, then they can access the honors year, which is a fourth year, right? And in the fourth year, students have individual supervision. They do an honors thesis, which is pretty serious. So the courses are serious and hard in the second, the third, and the fourth year. In the first year, they are going to be very, very easy for you, right? So there is going to be something similar to the economics that you do at high school, with some other units based on statistics. So you will have statistics, econometrics, which is statistics applied to economics. You will have microeconomics and macroeconomics. Those units are going to be easy. You just need to get good marks and also use your time to choose your electives wisely, right? Maybe do some extra mathematics, maybe do some computer engineering, or maybe some psychology, depends on what your interests are, right? But then from the year 2 and year 3, things become much more serious, and it's going to be challenging, I promise, right? So when you get your honors degree, then there are lots of doors that open for you. So a lot of our students go to work for the RBA or for the Productivity Commission, for New South Wales Treasury, New South Wales or Federal Treasury. But even a few of them, right, they want to come back to academia, or some others want to go straight to academia, right? The way to go at this point, when you get your honors degree, you want to continue, you want to be an academic economist, is to enroll in a high quality PhD program, right? This is essential, right? The honors, Sydney Uni honors give you a very good starting point to go into a good PhD program. The problem is there are no good PhD programs in Australia, right? You have to move overseas. You have to go to Europe, or you have to go to the United States, maybe Canada, right? The United States, now it's a little bit tricky. We don't know what will happen in the next 5 or 6 years, but our best honors students have gone, they obtain university medals. They went to Harvard, they went to Stanford, to Yale, to the best places ever. Problematically, well, PhD programs are hard, right? And they are very competitive. But if you stay focused, you are going to succeed.
Yeah, that sounds very detailed. So I think now I'll just let the students see if they have any questions they want to ask about, academia or, getting into economics or anything like that. So does anyone have any questions?
Sure, happy to answer.
Edson?
Yep. So could you explain to us like the what is involved in like a PhD study and what's the difference between it and like an honors? Yep.
Or there is a world of difference. So for us, for an academic economist, you cannot be called an economist until you have a PhD, right? So an honors program is maybe like learning to ride a bicycle with the training wheels. PhD is when you become a professional. Basically, PhD training in an international program is divided into parts. There is coursework, the first 2 years, and then there is research for 3 years. So the coursework is something that you need, you learn to all the theory that you need to, all the theory and all the techniques um, that you need to come up with your own research. The difference, the essential difference of a PhD is that you become a researcher. You are trained to be a researcher. Your PhD thesis is going to be three original research papers, right? That you are supposed to publish in economics journals. And this is extremely important, right? Because us academic economists see ourselves essentially as researchers, and you get trained as a researcher in your PhD program. So, for instance, when I meet another academic economist, the first thing we say after hello is, where is your PhD from? And who was your supervisor, right? Because when you are in a PhD program, you have one-to-one supervision, right? So you develop a very close relationship with your supervisor, right? So it's like your father or your mother, right? So I'm the academic son of Jordi Brands. He is my PhD supervisor. And I'm also kind of a son of Alvin Roth, who was my post-doctoral supervisor when I was at Harvard Business School. The academic world is very different in what we do and the way we think from the people who are economists and work for banks or work outside of academia. It's a very different world. It's exciting. It is hard to get in, but I think it's a very, very good career, especially for people with, who are driven to think and to try to solve problems.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Anyone? Chatting?
If you were to, if you wanted to be an economist, not for academia, but just as a job, would you still recommend, would you still say it's very important to do honors for economy?
Definitely, yes. In Australia, the honors program at Sydney Uni is probably the best way to be an economist of any kind, right? It is hard, it's a bit challenging, but you have Sydney grammar, you should be fine, okay? And it's interesting, right? With a regular program, you're going to be bored. Moreover, our honors program is very prestigious and it's very well regarded by the private sector. So I have students, one of my students just completed her PhD at Oxford University, but all my other students have, most of my other students, not all of them, there is another one in Germany, but all the others have jobs in Australia in, as I said, working for government, Productivity Commission, Treasury, RBA, but also the private sector, so investment banking, consulting, and so on. So yeah, the good jobs our honors graduates get the good jobs for economists in the private sector.
Thank you, Pablo.
You're welcome.
All right. Any other questions? All right. I have a question then. So, what makes you like enjoy economics so much? Like you said before that you did 4 years of bachelor's and for economics, and you like said you really loved it. So, what really made you enjoy economics, and why should someone study economics, and like why should someone enjoy economics?
Right. Maybe you know the answer yourself, because I believe that you're doing economics at high school, right? So, economics gives you a worldview and uh, a tool, a way of thinking to understand how the world works, right?
Yeah.
And I find this very interesting. So, in my case, I had an interesting in the news in things that were happening in the world, and I like to read the newspapers, right? And I kept myself well informed. And the thing is, when I studied economics in the very first day, I realized that, oh, this is what I wanted to know, right? Because I wanted to understand all those things that were in the newspaper and were a little bit obscure, right? And that gave me uh, um, a very particular knowledge, right? A way of thinking about understanding the world. So economics is an intellectual pursuit, right? It's a career. It's not a trade, right? So I have a lot of respect for plumbers and people who do things with their hands, and it's good. This is something that society needs, right? And something that you learn in economics as well. But economics is not a trade. It's an intellectual pursuit.
Yeah. All right. So I have a very quick question from Ryan very quickly. So he was asking, so how did your education at Harvard Business School as well help with your career? And are there any tips of getting in, or is it worth going to
Oh, okay. So let's see. I was not a student at Harvard Business School. I was a post-doctoral fellow. So what happens is when you are in your PhD program, right? In the last year or last 6 months, you become what is called a PhD candidate. And there is a job market for economics. The job market is very, very well organized, right? The job market candidates, they all fly to a place, usually it's a city in the United States, and the universities who want to hire new staff for their economics departments, they send representatives there. So the way it works is you submit the best paper in your thesis and a letter, and you get your supervisors to send recommendations letters, and then you have interviews, right? So I went through this process. I had an interview with the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, but I didn't get the job, right? They also flew me into Hong Kong. I went to Hong Kong. I thought, this is great. I hope they offer me a job, but they didn't. But then my friend in Spain told me, look, there is an opening at Harvard Business School. So there is an opening at Harvard. So you may want to go there for this job. It was a 2-year job. And I submitted an application. My supervisor, Jordi Brandt, said, well, it's very good that you try, but this is Harvard. It's going to be hard. So, but I got in. And the reason I got in was that because I was the best left over, right? Everyone got a job. I was the best who didn't get a job. Usually, economists don't do postdocs. But sometimes, there are some positions. I was extremely lucky, right? I was very, very lucky. So what I was doing there, I was in charge of running the experimental economics laboratory. And, I was hanging around with Al Roth and with faculty members and so on, but I was not a student. I had contact with the students from the Harvard PhD program, which is somehow also affiliated to business school. And I had friends who were teaching at the business school. So the business school has very little to do with economics, right? So it's a common misconception that economics is very close to business. It is not really. So economics is kind of something about the principles for business and so on, but the practice of business is quite far, and it's a very different tool set from economics. Usually people who go to business schools to get an MBA, they are already professionals, and maybe they studied undergrad economics, but they come from companies and so on. So it is something that I wouldn't recommend to just go straight to Harvard Business School. You couldn't, right? You finish at Sydney Grammar, then you go to study economics, and after that, maybe 10 years after, maybe you have an interest to do an MBA or something like that. And it's a very good place, right? But it's a very, very different thing. It's a lot less technical. It's more about, it's more of a chatty thing, and there is a lot of ideology involved. So is in economics, right? But well, that's maybe for another day. Okay.
We'll get a question from Kanisha.
So I kind of have two kind of unrelated questions. I was wondering if there was anything that we could do at like the year 10, 11, and 12 level to help increase our chances of getting into an economics at university.
So I answered this question first. So you should be fine, right? So to get into Sydney Uni Economics, I think ATAR is maybe 92. So it's nothing special, 91 or 92. You're going to get in, right? So the thing I would recommend, but that's probably you're already doing, do at least advanced mathematics. It's not in first year we are going to use a little bit of calculus, but it's nothing special. It's not going to be difficult. After the first year, if you get into the honors program, then we're going to use mathematics. So if you know your advanced mathematics, you know your statistics, you should be fine. But I don't think there is anything special that you need to do in year 10, 11, and 12 in terms of what you do at school. However, one very important thing that I tell everyone, I think to be a really good economist, you need to keep your eyes open, and you need to look around you. You need to look at the world, right? Because economics is about explaining the world. So the more you know about the world, the better an economist you can be. Curiosity is very, very important.
Thank you so much. Also, an unrelated follow-up question. Earlier, you mentioned that you got an offer for a job in Hong Kong, and
Yes.
I was curious as to what made you, I guess, gravitate towards Hong Kong and the Asia Pacific market in general.
Well, it didn't. So what happens is when we are about to finish our PhD, we put together what we call the job market package, right? In my times, we had to print everything. Now it's all done online. But we put one of our research papers from our thesis. We ask our supervisors to send recommendation letters. We write a presentation letter. And we send everything else that they need to a list of universities. So we look at all the universities that have openings, and we choose the ones that we like for some reason. And Hong Kong University of Science and Technology is a very good place, and I needed a job, right? So, I just applied to, I don't know, 52 or 200 places. I don't remember exactly, maybe 80. I think when I was at Harvard, I did the same thing because after 2 years, I had to go back to the job market, and then I applied to 50 universities. I was a little bit lazy, so I didn't look very much. And my friend, I took the list from my friend who was applying to the University of Sydney, but not to the University of Melbourne. And that was a mistake, right? Because Melbourne is a very good place too, right? Yes, but there are very good universities in Asia, definitely. And well, the thing is, for new, freshly minted PhD candidates, the market is tough, right? There are not as many positions as there used to be, but it still makes sense. And moreover, you have a PhD, if you don't get a job in academia, I mean, straight away you can do a postdoc, you can go to the private sector, your skills are very, very valuable.
Thank you.
No worries.
I think Jackson has another question.
Yes. Would you recommend we do any sort of internships or work experience while we're in high school, which would help us later in economics?
I would recommend you to do that in general, right? I think all experience is good, is positive, right? And if you end up finding something that you really like, then just go ahead and do it, right? I don't think there is anything specific to economics that I would recommend to do, but doing internships, anything, I think it would be great. It would be very interesting to find things that you like, to understand the world, which I think is critical, is very important to be an economist, to be a good economist. But also, to find out that things you don't like. So once I had one of my honors students who went to work for a private company, and he came to visit me after a few months. And I asked him, so what do you do there? And he said, well, my job is about looking at two very large spreadsheets in two enormous computer screens and make sure that the numbers are the same in the two spreadsheets. And I thought, oh, that sounds like very boring. And I actually told him, I said, yes, and so the things that you learn here are of any use there? He said, no, they are not of no use at all, right? But, my student learned that this wasn't his cup of tea, right? So, yeah, I think all experience is valuable, and definitely do an internship, go for it. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Any other questions that we have? No? All right, I guess I'll ask one more then. So I think we've discussed this with, previous representatives who have just spoken before. And it's like, what resources would you recommend to us for us to, gain a better understanding of the world around us, especially in terms of economics and stuff like that?
Okay, I think this is a pretty good question. So, I would do probably what your teachers tell you to do, to read, right? So one easy thing to do to increase your uh, highbrow understanding of the world is maybe go and read The Economist, the magazine, right? It's very good. It's not only or not essentially about economics, but it is very, very good. It's very well written, and you get to learn a lot from that. Another thing you could do is to read some books. I would recommend. So there are books that they are not technical, because economists only read books when we don't want to be technical, when we want to reach out to the general public. So reading something by Paul Krugman or Joseph Stiglitz, those I would very much recommend those things. Those are kind of macro, right? But I guess when you are at high school and when you're starting about thinking about being an economist, I think this is something that that would be very attractive, right? Macroeconomics. Another thing that you could look at is the intersection of economics and psychology and anthropology. So read something by Danny Kahneman, Cass Sunstein, or Thaler. So I'll give you a couple of titles of books that I like very much. There is one called Thinking Fast and Slow. That's a fantastic book. It's easy to read and it is very, very interesting. Thinking Fast and Slow. Another one that it is also good, but you need to take with a grain of salt or two, is a book titled Nudge. Okay, Nudge, like this. All right. So yeah, read. And also what can you do? Watch, be curious, be curious about the grown-up world, because I think when I was your age, we all watched the TV news, right? And I think the teenagers of my times had there was a standard understanding of what was going on in the world, right? And now things are a little bit scattered. But there is very good things online in YouTube, in ABC. ABC has documentaries and kind of podcast kind of things that are in YouTube. And watching this would be also very interesting. Some have an economics flavor, right? So because yes, as I said, it's very important to be aware what's going on in the world. So politics and things that have an impact on the economic world, like on GDP growth, on inflation, things like that. I think that would be very interesting.